Hey everybody, it's Xavier, and me and Rafael are going to be going over standards 46 through 50. So standard 46 is multimedia presentations, and basically what that is it's a whole bunch of technological resources that students can use, and it opens a lot of doors for them. They could use things like audio and video equipment, DVD players, DVRs, video cameras, computers, and other software, and they can even use the internet to do research or publish and make more classroom presentations. Now, this is really good for English learners because when they use these multimedia equipments, they don't really have to rely on trying to speak English and trying to think about what they're going to say next. They can use visuals and just other graphic stuff like that, and they don't really have to feel so much social anxiety when they're trying to think of what English words to say or how to translate what they're trying to say, and no one understands them. The only drawback of this would be that teachers might be technologically challenged, but with a staff full of other teachers, it would be hard not to find some help. Here are the steps to incorporating multimedia presentations into the classroom. So with step one, you want to model the media usage and show them all the things that you can do with those resources. You don't want to give them something brand new and expect them to figure it out. With step two, you introduce the media slowly. You want to show them the basics of how to turn on and off these machines, where to stand, how far away you stand, and just really basic instructions on how to use it. With number three, you're going to add new media as appropriate. What this means is whenever you bring in a new piece of equipment, you want to explain to the students what it's for. It's important to do this because whenever they're thinking about how they're going to do their next presentation, they're going to want to know what they need to use. If they know what certain pieces of equipment do, it's really going to help them make a really effective presentation. With step four, you're supposed to allow time for practice. Now, this is a really obvious step, but sometimes teachers get caught up in all these lesson plans and all the other stuff that they need to go through in a casual day. So it's really important to remember that you need time to practice, and the students obviously need time to practice with the equipment too, especially if it's new stuff. With step five, you create working partners. Basically what this means is that if someone's kind of struggling with the equipment, you want to pair them up with someone who's really good at it. You've probably seen this in a lot of your other courses. It's just a technique that generally works really well. You just got to make sure they're both working effectively to figure out what they're supposed to be doing, because you don't want the one who's really good at it to be doing all the work while the one who doesn't know what they're doing still doesn't know what they're doing. Make sure they're talking as they work through it. And the final step requires you to make a media assignment for your students. When you're assigning your students these presentation projects, you want to start them off with something simple that they can work with, and then you'll let them gradually do more complex stuff, because the more they use the equipment, they're obviously going to be getting better, so you can't assign them the same simple things over and over again. You want to try and challenge them and show them they can do more with what they have.
Hello, my name is Rafael, and this is my part of the presentation. So here I have strategy 47, small groups and partners. And basically, this strategy just helps you understand how to effectively make small groups and how to effectively pair students. So it's a two-part strategy here. Let's start off with small groups. As you know, small groups are usually made of 3 to 4 students who work with a teacher to practice a specific skill. Well, most small groups are usually heterogeneous, which means that in that small group, let's assume that in a specific skill, let's say that this skill here is knowing how to multiply. Well, let's assume that 2 students are good at multiplying and 2 students need help with multiplication. But even though they have a difference in skills with multiplication, they are all grouped together to work on a different skill, and that different skill might be division. So it's just grouping students who have different levels of skill to work on a different skill. And let's look at the bottom bullet point here. Arrangement is based on their need for instruction in a certain skill. So you really just want to have a purpose when you make small groups. You want to be an effective teacher. So when send students, when you create a small group, you want to make sure that there's a purpose, and that you know what skills they each need help in. That's mainly like the whole idea behind making small groups. Now let's go to partners. The key word here is cooperatively. So pair of students working cooperatively to achieve a certain task. So this is different from small groups. Usually small groups, students are working with the teacher, and it's kind of, there's a lot of explicit instruction, or, the teacher's really monitoring and facilitating. For partners, usually it's more of students working in pairs to achieve a certain task. Yes, the teacher might walk around and provide some assistance, but it's mainly, the two students working together to achieve a task. And one thing to note, that when creating when partnering students, this is a great chance for them to provide peer tutoring, and that's where one student might know more of that subject, and he could really help the other student understand part of the lesson. So let's just go on to the next slide here. So small groups step by step. So when creating small groups, first step here, you just want to observe and document language proficiency. So you just want to make sure that before you even start making small groups, their levels of proficiency, how well they could read, their levels of fluency, if they comprehend texts. So you should first have to observe and take note of their levels in proficiency, especially in a ESL classroom or a bilingual classroom. Now, the second step, review needs for instruction. So this is where you go back to your notes when you're observing, and then you look at what each student needs, and then you find a commonality between all of them and what skill a group of students might need help with. Now you know what you need to, what skill they need help in, and then that's when you design your lesson, and then you implement your lesson to help with that specific skill. Let's go to the next slide here. So partners step by step. So the first step here, pair the students. So you want to have a purpose when pairing students. It's very important to know, why you want to pair students here, so that they could work on a specific skill. And then the second step is to identify and train potential tutors. Again, several of your students might be natural tutors, right? If they work in pairs, they might even become like a mini teacher, where they, further explain to their peers, something about the task that, they know a lot about. So if that's the case, then you want to identify those potential tutors, and you want to talk to them as to how to assist their peer. Often when they work in pairs, one student might just give out all the answers, so they might just push over their partner and not really bring them along for the learning process of working in pairs. So you want to make sure that you really train those potential tutors, so that they ask the correct questions to their peers, and so that they're really helping them understand the lesson or the objective. And then after you do that, then you match your students. You have an idea of who could be matched with who, and you go ahead and do that. And then once they're matched, you model the task. So what objective or what goal should they reach? What does the process look like in them along the way, so that they could achieve that assignment. So you want to model the task in front of everyone, and as a teacher, you go step by step and you kind of explain the process. And then as they're working in pairs, you provide support and practice. So you just walk around, and if you see that some students working in pairs are having difficulties, and that's when you kind of facilitate, and you ask questions that might help them further understand the objective or the task they have to complete. Then after everyone's done, you want to share the progress. So you want to share their achievements. Did they complete the task? what part of the task did they like, what part of the task that they have difficulties with. And those are all the steps for making, pairs in a classroom. All right, so we have strategy 48, generating interaction between schema and text. So the word schema here just basically refers to a cognitive process that helps you organize thoughts, right? What are those thoughts? Well, it's the text you read. So let's look at the first bullet point. Strategy that promotes and facilitates comprehension. So basically this strategy, what it does, it helps the student, the keyword here is generate interaction. So when the student reads a text, then what this strategy wants to do is help them comprehend what they're reading, right? It helps them make the connection between, words and the meaning they carry, so that they know, what those words mean exactly. And usually this is used when they're reading, books that contain, content-related vocabulary words, or just high-tier vocabulary words. And the way it works is that, look at the second bullet point here. It's that students basically, group of students, they read a text. They read independently if you want to. And then after they're done reading a text, they come together to create a sentence or two that represents the main idea of the text. If they're successful in, making a sentence or two that truly represents the main idea, then you know that they're comprehending the text they're reading. So the text is not too hard for them. It's it's just it's at their level of reading proficiency. But again, if they're not able to come together and create a sentence or two that consistently reflects on the main idea, then you know that perhaps the text was too difficult. So it's just a strategy to help students comprehend the text.
Okay, so step 49 is tutorials. Tutorials are meant to give certain students the certain time and instruction that they need for success. Sometimes as a teacher, you won't be able to help every single student in the class because there's just so little time in the day and there's so many of them. But with tutorials, you can set out a certain time to help the students that really need it. It's usually about 30 minutes. Multiple research studies have shown that this actually helps out a lot.
Combining and scheduling strategies. So the key word here is combining strategies and scheduling. So, having all these strategies here in this book, it may be difficult to know, which strategies can be paired together so that they could scaffold off each other. And this is what this strategy wants to help you do, knowing how to figure out which strategies can scaffold off each other and which strategies, perhaps don't create that synergy between them. So if you just look at the first bullet point, strategy used to create and organize the classroom with scheduled instruction and meaningful follow-up and practice. And then the second bullet point, can assist in differentiating instruction effectively. So just knowing which strategies work together and knowing when to use these strategies. So scheduling them throughout your whole lesson, which strategy goes first before reading, which strategy works better during reading, which strategy works better after the reading. So that's the whole main idea behind this strategy here. The count counts scary things. Greetings, I am the Count. Do you know why they call me the Count? Because I love to count each scary thing. Count one silly spider on one long string. Come inside, we'll count more things. 2 spiders now on swinging strings. What else can you count when you count to 2? 2 bugs with spots and wings of blue. Now it's time to count to 3. How many 3s can you see? 3 spiders spinning, 3 bugs on the rug, 3 bats in a circle giving a hug. It's fun to count. Let's count some more. Count scary things. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spiders, 4 bugs, 4 bats in the air, 4 creepy crawlers with long purple hair. I love to count. Let's count to 5. 5 spiders, 5 bugs, and 5 flying bats, 5 creepers crawling, and 5 dancing cats. Six is the number I want to count now. 6 spiders swinging, 6 bugs all singing, 6 bats flying high, and 6 creepers clinging, 6 cats dancing cha-chas, and 6 small chihuahuas. Aha, keep counting with me. 7 is next. Count what you see. 7 spiders, 7 bugs, 7 acrobatic bats, 7 creepers, 7 cats, 7 chihuahuas wearing hats. Now what's next? 7 more. 7 silly snakes slither through the door. Now count. Fun is really great. This counting fun is really great. Now help me while I count to 8. Count 8 spiders, 8 bugs, 8 bats. Count 8 creepers, 8 cats wearing hats. Count 8 chihuahuas and 8 slithering snakes. Count 8 alligators eating 8 pink cupcakes. Count to 9 and you'll feel fine. 9 spiders, 9 bugs, 9 bats, and 9 creepers. 9 cats, 9 chihuahuas, 9 snakes, and 9 gators. Count 9 birds perched way up high. They flap their wings, they screech and spy. Now at last we come to 10. Can you help me count again? 10 spiders swing, 10 twiddle sing, 10 bats hang down, 10 creepers clown around. The cats meow, the chihuahuas say bow wow, 10 snakes hiss, 10 alligators blow a kiss, 10 birds tie their laces, and 10 funny monsters wear masks on their faces. Aha! I love to count things big and count things small, to count to 100 and count them all. The counting was fun, but now it's done. Everyone's gone and now there's none. Except for me, I'll count myself. Aha, let's count to 1.
Alright, so the activity that I chose is called the word wheel. The class splits up into equal teams and they each get a bag of random words, but they can't have the same ones. Now this activity ties into standard 46. What makes this activity multimedia is that you'll have this big spinner on the whiteboard and you'll have an online randomizer or whatever type of software you might have that randomizes these little sections on the spinner, like acted out or part of speech. But the way that this game would go is that, let's say team 1 starts off. A student goes ahead and grabs a word from the assigned bag and he says it out loud. And as soon as he says it, the teacher has to click the randomizer. When the randomizer decides on the section, then they'll have to do that task. If they get it right, then they'll get a point. But if they get it wrong, then another team has a chance to steal it. And whoever gets the most points wins. This game's really fun and it gives the entire class a chance to participate.